The observation deck of Orbital Station Harmony offered a perfect view of Earth below. Captain Jiwoo Park stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the blue planet rotate slowly beneath her feet. She had been stationed here for 3 years, managing diplomatic relations with the handful of alien species that occasionally passed through human space. It was usually quiet work. Usually. Today was different. The alien ship appeared without warning, dropping out of faster-than-light travel just outside the station's perimeter. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of Harmony, and its hull gleamed with a strange purple metal that seemed to shift colors in the starlight. Jiwoo had seen many alien vessels, but nothing like this. "Captain Park, we're receiving a transmission," her communications officer said, his voice tight with tension. "They're requesting immediate permission to dock." "Did they identify themselves?" Jiwoo asked. "Yes, ma'am. They claim to be representatives of the Galactic Council." Jiwoo felt her stomach tighten. She had heard of the Galactic Council, of course. Everyone had. They were the oldest and most powerful alliance in known space, controlling hundreds of worlds across dozens of star systems. But they had never contacted Earth directly before. Humanity had always been too small, too new, too insignificant for their attention. Until now. "Grant them permission," Jiwoo said, "and contact Earth Command. They'll want to know about this." The alien ambassador who stepped off the ship was like nothing Jiwoo had ever seen. He stood nearly 3 meters tall on 4 legs, his body covered in a shimmering exoskeleton that clicked softly as he moved. Multiple eyes studied her from a triangular head, and when he spoke, his voice came through a translator device that made him sound almost human. "I am Ambassador Vex Theron of the Galactic Council," he announced. "I bring an official message for the species that calls itself humanity." Jiwoo kept her face neutral, though her heart was racing. "I am Captain Jiwoo Park, Diplomatic Officer for United Earth Command. We are honored by your visit, Ambassador." "This is not a social call," Vex Theron said coldly. "The Council has become aware of your recent activities." "Our activities?" Jiwoo repeated carefully. "Your expansion into your outer solar system. Your colonization of moons and asteroids without proper authorization. Your experiments with faster-than-light travel." Each word seemed weighted with disapproval. "These actions violate established galactic law." Jiwoo felt anger flash through her, but she pushed it down. "Ambassador, with respect, we were not aware that we needed authorization to colonize our own solar system." "Ignorance of the law is not an excuse," Vex Theron replied. "For 50 years, the Council has monitored your species. We allowed you to develop at your own pace, to learn the basics of space travel. But you have grown too quickly, too recklessly. You are like children playing with dangerous tools." "We are not children," Jiwoo said quietly. Vex Theron's multiple eyes fixed on her. "Then you will understand the seriousness of the Council's decision. I am here to deliver an ultimatum." He produced a small device that projected a holographic document into the air between them. Jiwoo read it quickly, and with each line her anger grew stronger. The Council demanded that Earth immediately cease all colonization efforts. Every human settlement beyond Earth's moon must be dismantled within 30 days. All research into faster-than-light travel must stop, and all related data must be turned over to Council oversight. And finally, Earth must accept status as a protected species under Council supervision. Jiwoo looked up from the document. "This is essentially asking us to become your subjects." "The Council prefers the term guidance," Vex Theron said. "Many young species have benefited from our protection. In time, perhaps in a few centuries, you may be ready for full independence." "A few centuries," Jiwoo repeated flatly. "The Council is patient. We have existed for over 10,000 of your years. We understand that primitive species need time to mature." That word struck Jiwoo like a slap. Primitive. She thought of the cities on Earth, home to billions of people. She thought of the colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter, built with human sweat and ingenuity. She thought of the scientists who had cracked the secrets of faster-than-light travel through years of tireless work. Primitive. "And if we refuse?" she asked. Vexatheron's translator made a sound that might have been a sigh. "Then the Council will be forced to take corrective measures. For your own protection, you understand. We cannot allow an uncontrolled species to threaten the stability of civilized space." "Corrective measures," Jiwoo said. "You mean war." "The Council prefers to think of it as enforcement. But yes, Captain Park, if you refuse our generous offer, there will be consequences. You have 30 of your days to respond." He turned to leave, then paused. "I would advise you to choose wisely. The Council has brought peace and order to 200 worlds. We have never failed to enforce our will." After Vextheron left, Jiwoo immediately opened a secure channel to Earth. Within hours, she was in a virtual conference with the leaders of United Earth Command. The faces on her screen represented every major nation and power block on the planet, unified under one government only 50 years ago after humanity's first contact with alien life. "This is an outrage," said Premier Hassan, his dark eyes blazing with anger. "They have no right to dictate terms to us." "They have the power to enforce those terms," countered Director Chen. "We've seen their ships. Their technology is far beyond ours. So we just surrender?" Premier Hassan shot back. "Give up everything we've built?" "I didn't say that," Director Chen replied. "I'm simply stating the reality of our situation." The argument continued, voices rising and falling, but Jiwoo noticed that one person hadn't spoken yet. Admiral Min-Jun Choi sat at the end of the table, his weathered face thoughtful, his hands folded calmly in front of him. He was the head of Earth's United Fleet, the military force that had been quietly building in the shadows for the past 50 years. Finally, the Secretary General raised her hand for silence. "Admiral Choi, you've been very quiet. What are your thoughts?" The old admiral looked up slowly. "I think," he said, "that the Galactic Council has made a mistake." The room fell silent. "Explain," the Secretary General said. Admiral Choi stood and activated a holographic display. Star charts filled the air, showing the positions of Earth's colonies, defensive satellites, and patrol ships. "For 50 years, we've known that first contact would eventually lead to this moment. We've known that we would eventually meet someone bigger and stronger than us. So we prepared." "Prepared how?" Premier Hassan asked. "In the only way humans know how," Admiral Choi said simply. "We assumed the worst and planned accordingly." He expanded the display, and Jiwoo felt her eyes widen. The outer solar system was filled with markers she had never seen before. Weapons platforms hidden in the asteroid belt, defense stations disguised as mining operations, ships that were registered as cargo haulers but were actually military vessels. "For 5 decades, we've been building a defense network," Admiral Choi continued. "Every colony, every space station, every ship has been designed with one purpose in mind: to defend Earth and human space from exactly this kind of threat." "But their technology is superior," Director Chen protested. "Their technology is more advanced," Admiral Choi corrected. "That's not the same thing as superior. They have faster ships and stronger shields, but we have something they don't have." "What's that?" the Secretary General asked. Admiral Choi's expression was grim. 10,000 years of practice at war. Humans have been fighting each other since we learned to pick up rocks. We've turned warfare into an art form, a science, a way of life. We've fought with spears and swords, with guns and bombs, with drones and satellites. We've studied every battle, learned from every defeat, perfected every tactic." He paused. "The Galactic Council thinks we're primitive. They think we're children. But they've forgotten what it means to fight for survival. We never have." The room was silent for a long moment. "You're suggesting we fight them," Premier Hassan said slowly. "I'm suggesting we refuse to surrender," Admiral Choi replied. "What happens after that is up to them." The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for diplomacy, for trying to negotiate better terms. Others wanted to accept the Council's offer, to live under their protection rather than risk destruction. But slowly, a consensus formed. Humanity had not climbed from caves to the stars just to kneel before another species. When the vote was finally called, it was nearly unanimous. Earth would refuse the ultimatum. "Captain Park," the Secretary General said, "you will deliver our response to Ambassador Vexatheron. Keep it simple and clear." Ji-Woo nodded. "What should I tell him?" Admiral Choi smiled grimly. "Tell him exactly what he needs to hear. Tell him to prepare for battle." 3 days later, Ambassador Vexatheron returned to Orbital Station Harmony. Ji-Woo met him in the same conference room as before. This time, her hands were steady, her voice was calm. "Ambassador, I have Earth's response to the Council's ultimatum." Vexatheron's multiple eyes focused on her. "I trust your leaders have made the wise choice. We have considered your offer carefully," Ji-Woo said, "and our answer is no. We will not dismantle our colonies. We will not surrender our research. We will not accept Council supervision. Earth and humanity claim the right to determine our own future." For a moment, Vexatheron simply stared at her. Then his translator made a sound like grinding metal. "You refuse? You actually refuse?" "We do." "Captain Park, do you understand what you're saying? The Council has brought peace to hundreds of worlds. We have fleets that span star systems. We have weapons that can crack planets. And you, a species that has barely left your own solar system, dare to defy us." Ji-Woo met his gaze steadily. "Yes." Vexatheron's exoskeleton rattled, a sign of agitation. "This is foolishness. This is suicide. The Council will crush you like insects." "Perhaps," Ji-Woo said, "but we will not go quietly. Earth has one final message for the Galactic Council, Ambassador." "And what is that?" Ji-Woo's voice was ice-cold. "Prepare for battle." Vexatheron left the station in silence. Ji-Woo watched his ship accelerate away, disappearing in a flash of light as it jumped to faster-than-light speed. She knew he was racing back to the Council to report humanity's defiance. She knew what would come next. War. Admiral Choi appeared on her communicator. "Well done, Captain. Now comes the hard part." "The waiting?" Ji-Woo asked. "No," the Admiral said. "The fighting. Get your people ready, Captain. The Council won't wait long to respond, and when they come, they'll come with everything they have." Ji-Woo looked down at Earth, spinning peacefully below. Billions of people going about their lives, unaware of the storm that was coming. She thought about all the colonies scattered across the solar system, all the families who had built new homes on distant moons and asteroids. She thought about humanity's long climb from the caves to the stars. And she thought about Admiral Choi's words. 10,000 years of warfare. 10,000 years of survival against impossible odds. Humanity had faced extinction before, from ice ages and plagues, from asteroids and their own weapons. Each time they had survived. Each time they had grown stronger. The Galactic Council thought they were children playing with dangerous toys. They thought humans were primitive savages who would fold at the first sign of real power. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Ji-Woo turned away from the window and began issuing orders. There was much to do and little time to do it. The colonies needed to be fortified. The defense network needed to be activated. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier needed to be ready. The Council had given Earth an ultimatum. Earth had replied with a challenge. Now both sides would discover what happened when an unstoppable force met an immovable object. The Galactic Council commanded hundreds of worlds and possessed technology beyond human understanding. But humanity had something else, something the Council had forgotten over their long centuries of easy dominance. Humanity had the will to fight, the refusal to surrender, the absolute certainty that freedom was worth any price, and soon the entire galaxy would learn what that meant. The council chamber on the planet Valoris was a massive dome that could hold representatives from all 47 member species. Today, it was filled to capacity. Ambassador Vexatheron stood at the center, his report hanging in the air as a holographic display. "They refused," he said, still struggling to believe it himself. "The humans actually refused our ultimatum." A wave of noise swept through the chamber, clicking, buzzing, whistling sounds from dozens of different species, all expressing the same emotion: shock. High Commander Zorvak rose from his seat. He was a Draconi, a species of large reptilian warriors who had fought in every major council conflict for the past 3,000 years. His scales were scarred from countless battles, and his voice was a deep rumble that carried easily across the chamber. "This is an insult," Zorvak declared. "No species has ever dared refuse a council ultimatum, not in 10,000 years. "Perhaps we were too gentle in our approach," suggested Councillor Myron, an ancient being whose species had been founding members of the council. Perhaps the humans did not understand the seriousness of their situation. "Oh, they understood," Vexatheron said bitterly. "I made it perfectly clear. They simply don't care. The human Captain Park looked me in the eye and told me to prepare for battle." Zorvak's laugh boomed through the chamber. "Battle? They want battle? These primitives who have been in space for barely 2 centuries? They think they can fight the Galactic Council?" "It does seem absurd," admitted another counselor, a floating creature whose body pulsed with bioluminescent light. "What weapons could they possibly have? What ships? What training?" "I reviewed the reports," Vexatheron said, pulling up data files. "Human technology is crude by our standards. Their ships are slow, their weapons are inefficient, their defenses are weak. By every metric, they should pose no threat whatsoever." "And yet you seem concerned, Ambassador," Councillor Myron observed. Vexatheron paused. There was something in the human captain's eyes, a certainty, as if she knew something we didn't. "Fear makes primitives irrational," Zorvak said dismissively. "They are bluffing, hoping we will back down. But the Council does not negotiate with defiance. We enforce, we correct, we bring order." He turned to address the full chamber. "I volunteer my fleet to handle this matter. Give me 300 ships and 30 days. I will bring the humans to their knees without firing a shot. Once they see our true power, they will surrender." The vote was quick and unanimous. High Commander Zorvak would lead a fleet to Earth and force humanity's compliance. It was meant to be a show of force, not a real battle. After all, no species had ever actually fought the Council before. They always surrendered once they saw what they were facing. The humans would be no different. While the Council prepared their fleet, Earth was a storm of activity. Every colony, every station, every ship was being readied for war. Admiral Minjun Choi stood in the command center deep beneath the surface of Luna, Earth's moon. Around him, holographic displays showed the entire solar system, marked with thousands of points of light. Each one represented a human asset. "Status report," he commanded. Commander Hye-Jin Song, his second-in-command, stepped forward. She was younger than the Admiral, but had proven herself in countless simulations and training exercises. Now she would face her first real battle. "The outer colonies are evacuating non-essential personnel," she reported. "We've armed every station with whatever weapons they can carry. The asteroid belt platforms are online and awaiting orders. And the fleet is assembled." Admiral Choi studied the display showing Earth's military ships. There were only 47 of them compared to the 300 council ships that intelligence suggested were coming. The numbers looked grim, but numbers didn't tell the whole story. "What about the special preparations?" he asked quietly. Commander Song smiled. "The moon batteries are ready. The council is going to get quite a surprise." "Good," Admiral Choi said. He turned to address the room full of officers and crew. "I want everyone to understand what we're facing. The Galactic Council has technology more advanced than ours. Their ships are faster. Their shields are stronger. Their weapons have longer range. On paper, we cannot win this fight." He paused, letting that sink in. But war is not fought on paper. War is fought by people, by soldiers, by those willing to sacrifice everything for what they believe in. The Council has forgotten this. They've spent thousands of years enforcing their will on species too weak or too afraid to resist. They've forgotten what it means to face an enemy that refuses to quit. Admiral Choi's voice grew harder. "We are descendants of survivors. Our ancestors lived through ice ages that covered half the planet. They survived plagues that killed millions. They endured wars that nearly destroyed civilization itself. And each time humanity came back stronger. That's what we do. We survive, we adapt, we overcome." He gestured to the display. "So yes, the Council has better ships. But our ships are built by people who understand that nothing works perfectly all the time. Every system has a backup. Every backup has a backup. Our ships can lose half their systems and keep fighting. Yes, the Council has better weapons, but we have 10,000 years of military history to draw from. We've studied every war, every battle, every tactic ever used. We know how to fight outnumbered. We know how to turn disadvantages into advantages. And yes, the Council has more ships. But we're not fighting in their territory. We're fighting here, in our home system, defending our families and our future. They're far from home, fighting for pride and control. There's a difference between fighting because you're ordered to and fighting because you have no other choice." Admiral Choi looked at each face in the room. "The Council sent us an ultimatum. They thought we would surrender. They were wrong. Now they're sending a fleet to force our compliance. They think this will be easy. They are wrong about that too." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "When the Council ships arrive, we will show them what humanity is truly capable of. We will show them that we are not prey. We are not subjects. We are free people, and we will fight to stay that way, no matter the cost." The room erupted in cheers. 15 days later, the Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 300 ships, gleaming and perfect, arranged in a formation that had brought peace and order to hundreds of worlds. On the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant, High Commander Zorvak studied the sensor readings of the human system. He could see the small fleet of human ships waiting near Earth. 47 vessels against his 300. It was almost insulting. "This will be over quickly," he told his officers. "We'll advance to Earth, demonstrate our firepower, and accept their surrender. Simple." But as the Council fleet moved deeper into the solar system, something strange happened. Alerts began flashing across the Dominant's sensors. "Commander?" "We're detecting weapon signatures," his tactical officer reported. "Multiple sources. Very multiple sources." "From the human fleet?" Zorvak asked. "No, sir. From everywhere. The asteroid belt is lighting up like a star. There are weapons platforms hidden throughout the system. Thousands of them." Zorvak frowned. "Defensive installations. Predictable. They can't stop us, but they might slow us down. All ships, shields to maximum. Continue advancing." The Council fleet pressed forward, confident in their shields and superior technology. They had faced defensive networks before. It was never a problem. Then Earth's moon opened fire. Massive railguns, hidden in craters and beneath the lunar surface, launched projectiles at a significant fraction of the speed of light. These weren't energy weapons that shields could deflect easily. These were solid metal slugs, each one weighing several tons, moving at velocities that turned them into kinetic hammers. The first volley struck the Council fleet's forward screen. 3 ships exploded instantly as the projectiles punched through their shields and hulls like paper. 2 more were crippled, spinning out of formation with massive holes torn through their centers. "Evasive maneuvers!" Zorvac roared. "Return fire! Destroy those platforms!" The battle began in earnest. Council ships fired their energy weapons at the moon, blasting craters where the railguns were hidden. But the humans had built redundancy into everything. For every gun destroyed, 2 more opened fire, and all across the asteroid belt, hidden platforms activated, launching missiles and railgun rounds at the advancing fleet. The human fleet, meanwhile, stayed back near Earth. They weren't charging forward to meet the Council ships. They were waiting. "Cowards!" Zorvac spat. "They hide behind automated defenses." "Sir, we've lost 23 ships," his tactical officer reported. "And we haven't even reached Earth's orbit yet." Zorvac's confidence wavered. 23 ships? Already? These were supposed to be primitive weapons, but there were so many of them, and they just kept firing, wave after wave. "All ships, increase speed. We need to get past this defensive zone and engage their actual fleet." The Council ships surged forward, taking casualties as they went. More railgun rounds, more missiles, more explosions. But they were making progress. They were getting closer to Earth and the waiting human fleet. Finally, the Council fleet broke through the defensive zone. They had lost 62 ships, far more than Zorvac had expected, but they still had overwhelming numbers. 238 ships against 47. The humans couldn't win. "All ships, engage the human fleet," Zorvac ordered. "Destroy them!" The Council fleet charged forward, weapons blazing. The human ships finally moved, spreading out into a loose formation that seemed random and undisciplined. Council energy weapons lanced out, striking human shields. And the shields failed almost immediately. "They have almost no defensive capability," a Council officer shouted triumphantly. "Their shields are pathetic." It should have been a slaughter. The Council ships poured fire into the human vessels, tearing down their shields and striking their hulls. But something was wrong. The human ships weren't exploding. They were taking hits that should have destroyed them, and they just kept fighting. One human destroyer took a direct hit that burned through its shield and melted a hole in its side. Atmosphere vented into space. Systems sparked and failed. But the ship kept moving, kept firing, its remaining weapons blazing away at Council ships. "Why won't they die?" Zorvac muttered. Commander Song stood on the bridge of her ship, the Indomitable, as alarms blared around her. "Shields down! Hull breach on decks 3 and 5. We've lost main power." "Switch to backup power," she ordered calmly. "Seal the breached decks. All weapons. Keep firing." "Ma'am, we've taken critical damage," her tactical officer said. "Regulations say we should withdraw." "Earth regulations or Council regulations?" Song asked. "Earth regulations, ma'am." Song smiled coldly. "Well, Earth regulations were written by people who understand something the Council doesn't. We're not built to survive, we're built to fight. Now keep shooting." The Indomitable had lost its shields, half its weapons, and a quarter of its crew. By any reasonable standard, it should retreat. But it didn't. It kept firing, kept fighting, kept moving forward. Across the battlefield, every human ship was doing the same thing. They took damage that would have crippled Council vessels and kept fighting. Their ships were designed with multiple redundancies, backup systems, manual controls. They had armored hulls meters thick because humans knew shields could fail. They had crew trained to keep fighting even when systems went down. And they had one more advantage: they were fighting for their home. The battle raged for 6 hours. The Council fleet, which should have won easily, found itself locked in a grinding, brutal fight. Human ships refused to die. They took terrible damage and kept coming like wounded animals that didn't know they were supposed to fall down. One human destroyer, the Retribution, was hit by multiple weapons and left drifting. Zorvac thought it was dead. Then it fired its engines one last time, building up speed, and rammed straight into a Council battleship. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. "They're insane," Zorvac whispered. "They're actually insane." When the battle finally ended, the Council fleet retreated. They had won, technically. They'd destroyed 23 human ships, but they'd lost over 120 of their own, and the remaining ships were damaged and low on ammunition. Zorvac sat in his command chair, staring at the casualty reports in disbelief. This was supposed to be easy. This was supposed to be a show of force. Instead, it had been a bloodbath. "Commander, what are your orders?" his tactical officer asked quietly. Zorvac looked at the display showing Earth and its remaining defenders. The humans had lost, but they'd made the Council pay dearly for the victory. And they were still there, still armed, still ready to fight. "We retreat," Zorvac said finally. "Back to Council space. We need to report this to the leadership." As his damaged fleet limped away, Zorvac finally understood what had bothered Ambassador Vex Theron. That certainty in the human captain's eyes. She had known this would happen. She had known that humanity couldn't win, but that they would make the Council bleed for every meter of space. The humans hadn't won the battle, but they'd proven something far more important. They'd proven they wouldn't surrender, and that changed everything. The Council chamber was silent as High Commander Zorvac finished his report. The holographic display showed the battle statistics, and the numbers were damning. 127 Council ships destroyed or too damaged to repair, against only 23 human vessels destroyed. "This is impossible," Councillor Thexis said, her crystalline body chiming with agitation. "Your fleet was 10 times their size. Your technology is superior. How did you lose so many ships?" "We didn't lose," Zorvac said, though the words felt hollow even to him. "We forced them to retreat. We control the battlefield." "At what cost?" Ambassador Vex Theron asked quietly. "Commander, you lost nearly half your fleet fighting a species that has been in space for only 200 years. Zorvac's scales rippled with barely contained anger. "The humans fight like nothing we've ever encountered. Their ships are primitive, yes, but they refuse to die. I hit one of their destroyers with enough firepower to crack a mountain, and it kept shooting. I watched another ship, crippled and venting atmosphere, ram itself into one of our battleships." "Desperation tactics," Councillor Myron said thoughtfully. "But effective ones, it seems." "It's more than desperation," Zorvac said. He pulled up footage from the battle, showing a human ship taking hit after hit and continuing to fight. "Look at this vessel. Its shields failed in the first minute of combat. By all rights, it should have withdrawn. Instead, it kept fighting for another 5 hours. We destroyed its weapons, one by one. We punched holes in its hull. We killed its engines. And still, it kept fighting until we finally broke it apart completely." The Council members watched in silence as the recording played. The human ship was ugly compared to Council vessels. It was a brick of metal and armor, covered in weapons and sensors that seemed randomly placed. But as they watched it absorb punishment that would have destroyed any Council ship, they began to understand. "It's designed to take damage," Councillor Myron observed. "Look at the structure. Multiple layers of armor, redundant systems. Everything important is buried deep inside the hull." "But why?" Councillor Thexis asked. "Why build ships to absorb damage instead of avoiding it? Good shields and fast engines are more efficient." "Because they expect to take damage," Vex Theron said slowly. "They don't build ships assuming everything will work perfectly. They build ships assuming everything will go wrong." A new voice spoke up. "May I address the Council?" Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Dalnir, a scientist from the Zik species, known throughout the Council for their analytical minds. Dalnir had been studying human culture and biology since first contact. "Please," Counselor Myron said, "any insight would be valuable." Dalnir activated a display showing Earth. "I have spent years researching the human homeworld. At first I thought the data was wrong. The environment seemed too hostile to support intelligent life. But the data was correct. Earth is what we would classify as a Class 12 death world." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Everyone knew about death world classifications. Anything above Class 5 was considered too dangerous for colonization. "Class 12? Counselor Thexus said in disbelief. "That's absurd. How could intelligence evolve on such a hostile world?" "That's exactly the point," Dalnir said. "It shouldn't have. Earth has violent weather systems that can level cities. It has tectonic activity that causes earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. It has diseases and parasites that can kill in days. It has predators that hunt in packs and prey that fight back with claws and horns. The planet itself is trying to kill everything on it, all the time." Dalnir pulled up images of Earth's wildlife. "Look at these creatures. This one is called a crocodile. It has existed unchanged for millions of years because it's already a perfect killing machine. This one is called a hippopotamus. It looks slow and harmless, but it kills more humans than any predator on Earth. And this," Dalnir showed an image of a small insect, "is a mosquito. Tiny, seemingly insignificant, but it spreads diseases that have killed billions of humans throughout their history." "What does this have to do with their ships?" Zorvak asked impatiently. "Everything," Dalnir replied. "Humans evolved on a world where nothing works perfectly, where danger comes from everywhere, where survival means adapting to constant threats. They didn't develop advanced technology through peaceful cooperation like most council species. They developed it through competition, through warfare, through necessity." Dalnir changed the display to show human history. "Humans have been at war with themselves for their entire existence. Not occasional conflicts like most species experience. Constant war. They have fought wars over land, over resources, over ideas, over gods. They have developed weapons of incredible sophistication, and most importantly, they have developed military tactics refined over 10,000 years of continuous combat." The council members stared at the images of human warfare throughout history. Battlefields covered in bodies, cities reduced to rubble, weapons that became more and more devastating with each passing century. Their entire civilization is built around the concept of survival through overwhelming adversity, Dalnir continued. Every human carries this in their genetic memory. They expect things to fail. They expect to be hurt. They expect to face impossible odds. And they've learned to keep fighting anyway. Counselor Mirren spoke up. "So when we designed ships with excellent shields and fast engines, we were thinking like species from peaceful worlds. We assumed our shields would work, so we didn't need heavy armor. We assumed we could retreat if needed, so we didn't plan for prolonged damage." "Exactly," Dalnir said. "But humans think differently. They assume shields will fail, so they add meters of armor. They assume systems will break, so they build in redundancies. They assume retreat might not be possible, so they design ships that can fight even when crippled. This is why their ships seemed so inefficient," Vextheron said, understanding dawning on his face. "We thought they were poorly designed. But they're designed for a different kind of warfare. The kind of warfare humans have been practicing since they lived in caves." Zorvak stood abruptly. "This changes nothing, so humans are tough, so they can take punishment. They still lost the battle. We still have superior numbers. We just need to send a bigger fleet." "Do you really want to do that?" Counselor Myron asked. "Commander, you lost half your fleet against their home defense. What happens when we escalate?" What happens when we push them into a corner with no other options? They die, Zorvok said flatly. What else can they do? That's the wrong question, Dalnir said quietly. The question is not what happens to them. It's what happens to us. Commander, did you wonder why the humans only had 47 ships in that battle? Zorvak frowned. They're a young species. That's all they could build. No. Dalnir pulled up intelligence reports. Human industrial capacity is actually quite impressive. They could have built hundreds of ships if they wanted to. So why didn't they? The chamber was silent. Because they didn't need to, Dalnir said. They knew they couldn't win a straight fight, so they didn't try. Instead, they fought a defensive battle, making us pay dearly for every meter of space. They weren't trying to win. They were trying to make us bleed. A war of attrition, Counselor Myron said thoughtfully. They know they can't match our technology, so they're going to make victory too expensive to pursue. But we have more ships, Zorvak protested. More resources, more worlds. We can outlast them. Can we? Dalnir asked. Commander, you fought them in their home system, where they had prepared defenses. What happens when we push deeper into Earth space? How many hidden platforms are waiting? How many automated weapons? How many traps? And most importantly, how many casualties are we willing to accept? The Council has never backed down from a challenge, Zorvok said. The Council has never faced a challenge like this, Counselor Myron corrected. We've brought peace to hundreds of worlds because those worlds saw our power and chose to submit. The humans have seen our power. They know we're stronger and they don't care. They're going to fight anyway. Admiral Choi stood in the command center on Luna, reading the intelligence reports from the battle. Commander Song stood beside him, her arm in a sling from injuries sustained when her ship was hit. We lost good people, Song said quietly. Yes, Admiral Choi agreed. But they didn't die for nothing. The Council thought this would be easy. We proved them wrong. But they'll come back, Song said, with more ships next time. Probably, Admiral Choi said, which is why we need to use the time we have. The Council fleet retreated to lick their wounds. They'll debate, they'll plan, they'll build up their forces. That gives us time to prepare the next phase. What is the next phase? Song asked. Admiral Choi smiled grimly. We show them that humans don't just defend. We show them what 10,000 years of offensive military tactics looks like. He pulled up a display showing the location of the retreating Council fleet. Commander, I want you to select 10 of our fastest ships, volunteers only. It's going to be a dangerous mission. What kind of mission? Song asked. We're going to do something the Council won't expect, Admiral Choi said. We're going to attack them. Song's eyes widened. Attack? Sir, they have over 200 ships. We'd be outnumbered 20-1. We're not attacking to win, Admiral Choi explained. We're attacking to show them that Earth isn't just a target to be conquered. We're showing them that we can strike back, that we can hurt them even in their own territory. We're changing the psychological dynamic. A raid, Song said, understanding. Hit and run. Exactly. Humans invented guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, unconventional combat. The Council thinks in terms of big battles and overwhelming force. We're going to teach them that war isn't always about who has the bigger fleet. Back in the Council chamber, the debate continued. Counselor Thexus was arguing for immediate escalation. We cannot show weakness. Send the Grand Armada, crush Earth completely. That's exactly what the humans want us to do, Counselor Myron argued. They want us to commit more forces, take more casualties, drain our resources. Every ship we lose fighting them is one less ship protecting our actual territory. So we just give up, Counselor Thexus demanded. Let them defy us. I'm suggesting we reconsider our approach, Counselor Myron said. Perhaps there's a diplomatic solution. Diplomacy with humans? Zorvok scoffed. They rejected our generous offer. They chose war. Did we give them a choice? Vexatherin asked. Everyone turned to look at him. "Ambassador?" Counselor Mirren prompted. Vexatheron stood slowly. "When I delivered the Council's ultimatum to Captain Park, I thought I was offering them protection. But from their perspective, I was demanding their surrender. I told them to dismantle their colonies, to stop their research, to accept our supervision. I called them primitive. I treated them like children." He paused. No wonder they chose to fight. What species would accept such terms? Would we? If a stronger power appeared and demanded the Council submit to their authority, would we accept it peacefully? The chamber was silent. "The humans aren't fighting because they're primitive or foolish," Vexatheron continued. "They're fighting for the same reason any of our species would fight. Because they believe freedom is worth dying for. Because they refuse to kneel. We've forgotten what that's like because we've been the dominant power for so long, but the humans haven't forgotten, they can't forget. Their entire history is built on it." "So what do you suggest?" Counselor Mirren asked. "I suggest we remember what the Council was founded for," Vexatheron said. "Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to bring peace through cooperation. We gave the humans an ultimatum. Perhaps it's time we offered them a conversation instead." Zorvak stood angrily. "This is weakness. The Council doesn't negotiate with defiance." "Then the Council will be trapped in an endless war with a species that refuses to surrender," Counselor Mirren said. "Commander Zorvak, you said it yourself. The humans fight like nothing we've ever seen. Even if we eventually win, how many of our own people will die in the process? How many ships will we lose? How many resources will we waste?" The vote was called. It was close, but the moderates won. The Council would open diplomatic channels with Earth before committing to full-scale war. But even as they voted, none of them knew that human ships were already moving through space, heading toward the retreating Council fleet. Admiral Choi's raid was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn that defending wasn't the only thing humans knew how to do. Commander Hae-Jin Song stood on the bridge of the stealth ship Shadowrunner, watching the Council fleet through her sensors. 10 human ships hung in the darkness of space, running silent, their power signatures reduced to almost nothing. They had followed the Council fleet for 3 days, staying just outside sensor range, waiting for the perfect moment. "Status?" Song asked quietly. "Council fleet is in repair formation," her sensor officer reported. "Their damaged ships are clustered together, being serviced by support vessels. Their defensive formation is sloppy." Song smiled. The Council had retreated from Earth thinking they were safe. They hadn't expected humans to follow them. They hadn't expected humans to attack. They were about to learn another lesson about fighting a Death World species. "All ships prepare to jump," Song ordered. "Target the support vessels first. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we get out before they can respond. This isn't about winning a battle. This is about sending a message." 10 human ships acknowledged her orders. Each one was small, fast, and packed with weapons. They weren't designed to fight prolonged battles. They were designed for exactly this kind of mission: strike and run, hit where it hurts and disappear before the enemy can retaliate. "All ships jump in 3, 2, 1. Execute." The 10 ships activated their faster-than-light drives simultaneously. For a fraction of a second, they ceased to exist in normal space. Then they appeared right in the middle of the Council fleet, weapons already firing. On the Dominant, alarms screamed. Zorvak jerked awake in his quarters, his mind struggling to process what was happening. "Commander, to the bridge!" His tactical officer's voice crackled over the comm. "We're under attack!" Zorvak ran to the bridge, his claws scraping on the metal floor. "Report!" "Human ships, sir. 10 of them. They jumped right into our formation." Zorvak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human ships were moving through his fleet like sharks through a school of fish. They weren't engaging his warships. They were targeting his support vessels, the unarmed ships carrying repair supplies and wounded crew. "All ships, engage the humans! Destroy them!" Zorvak roared. But the human ships were too fast, too maneuverable. They fired their weapons, crippling a support ship, then jumped to a new position before Council weapons could lock on. They appeared, fired, and vanished over and over like ghosts. In just 10 minutes, they had destroyed or crippled 15 support vessels. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the human ships jumped away, disappearing into the darkness of space. The Council fleet was left in chaos. Damaged ships that had been awaiting repair were now stranded. Supply vessels carrying critical parts were destroyed. Medical ships carrying wounded crew were drifting and powerless. Zorvok stood on his bridge, shaking with rage and something else. Something he hadn't felt in decades. Fear. The humans hadn't tried to fight his fleet directly. They'd struck where he was vulnerable, where he wasn't expecting an attack. And they'd done it deep in Council-controlled space, light years from Earth. "Commander," his tactical officer said quietly, "what are your orders?" Zorvak stared at the damage reports. "Get our support ships to safety, increase patrols, and contact the Council. They need to know that the humans aren't just defending anymore, they're hunting us." The news of the human raid spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Every species, every government, every news network was talking about it. The Galactic Council, the most powerful alliance in known space, had been attacked, in their own territory, by a species barely 2 centuries old. On a dozen different worlds, people watched the footage that had leaked from Council ships. They saw the human ships appearing and disappearing like magic. They saw the precision of the strikes. They saw the Council fleet, damaged and demoralized, unable to stop them. And they started asking questions. Dalnir watched the news reports in his laboratory, making notes. The human raid was brilliant in its simplicity. It had cost Earth only 10 ships and achieved multiple objectives. It had damaged Council morale. It had proven humans could strike anywhere. And most importantly, it had changed the narrative. Before, the story had been about a primitive species defying the Council out of foolish pride. Now, the story was about a resourceful underdog fighting for survival against overwhelming odds. And the galaxy, Dalnir knew, loved an underdog. His console chimed with an incoming message. It was from Counselor Myron, requesting his presence at an emergency session. Dalnir gathered his research and headed to the Council chamber. When he arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Counselor Thexis was arguing loudly for immediate retaliation. "They attacked us, in our own space. We must respond with overwhelming force." "And then what?" Counselor Myron asked calmly. "We send more ships. They attack our supply lines. We send more ships. They raid our colonies. Where does it end?" "It ends when they're all dead," Counselor Thexis shouted. "Is that what the Council has become?" Ambassador Vexatheron asked. "An organization that exterminates species for daring to resist us?" "They started this war," Counselor Thexis said. "Did they?" Vexatheron challenged. "Or did we start it when we demanded their unconditional surrender?" The argument continued, but Dalnir noticed that Counselor Myron was watching him. The ancient being gestured for him to approach. "You've been studying the humans," Counselor Myron said quietly. "What's your assessment of their capabilities?" Dalnir pulled up his research. "Counselor, I've analyzed every human battle tactic from their recorded history. They have over 10,000 years of military innovation to draw from. Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations, naval combat, air superiority, combined arms doctrine. They've studied and perfected every form of warfare. But surely our technology gives us an advantage," Counselor Myron said. "Technology isn't everything," Dalnir replied. "The humans proved that in their first battle. They couldn't match our shields or weapons, so they adapted. They used defensive positions. They employed weapons we weren't expecting. They sacrificed ships to inflict maximum damage, and now they're using hit-and-run tactics to strike where we're vulnerable." Dalnir brought up a holographic projection. "If we escalate to full-scale war, yes, we will eventually win. We have more ships, more resources, more worlds, but the cost will be enormous. The humans will fight to the last person. They'll turn every colony into a fortress. They'll attack our supply lines. They'll raid our worlds. They'll make us pay for every meter of space. So you're saying we should surrender to them? Counselor Thexus demanded, having overheard the conversation. I'm saying we should talk to them, Dalnir said. Humans are aggressive, yes, but they're also remarkably cooperative when they choose to be. Their entire species unified under a single government after first contact. That's unprecedented. Most species take centuries to achieve that level of cooperation. What are you suggesting? Counselor Myron asked. I'm suggesting that humans might make better allies than enemies, Dalnir said. Their engineering is practical and robust. Their military tactics are sophisticated. Their willingness to sacrifice for their beliefs is unmatched. Imagine what they could contribute to the Council as members rather than as conquered subjects. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Choi was dealing with the fallout from Commander Song's raid. The mission had been a tactical success, but it had also escalated the conflict. The Council could no longer ignore Earth or hope the problem would go away. Sir, we're receiving multiple communications from the Council, his communications officer reported. Some are threatening retaliation, but others are requesting negotiations. The Council is split, Admiral Choi observed. Good. That's what we wanted. Dr. Su-Min Lee entered the command center. She was the head of Earth's Advanced Weapons Research Division, and she looked exhausted, but also excited. Admiral, I have news, she said. The project is complete. Admiral Choi felt his heartbeat quicken. You're certain? We've run every test. It works. We can weaponize faster than light travel. Admiral Choi had authorized this project months ago, right after the Council's ultimatum. The concept was simple but devastating. If humans could make objects travel faster than light, they could make weapons appear inside enemy defenses. Missiles that bypassed shields, bombs that materialized inside ship hulls, torpedoes that jumped directly to their targets. How many do we have? He asked. 30 prototypes, Dr. Lee said. Enough for a demonstration. A demonstration, Admiral Choi repeated. He thought for a moment, then made his decision. Prepare them, but we're not using them against Council ships. Dr. Lee looked confused. Sir, we're going to use them to send a message, Admiral Choi said. The Council thinks they can force us to surrender through superior firepower. We're going to show them that we have the capability to end this war whenever we choose. But we're also going to show them that we choose not to. Because we're not monsters. We're not conquerors. We just want to be left alone. He turned to his staff. Get me a secure channel to the Council leadership. It's time we had a conversation. 2 days later, a small human ship appeared in orbit around Valoris, the Council's capital world. It transmitted a simple message requesting permission to land and deliver a diplomatic communication. The Council, surprised and suspicious, granted permission. Captain Ji-Woo Park stepped off the ship, accompanied by Admiral Choi and a small security detail. They were met by Ambassador Vexitharan and escorted to the Council chamber. The chamber was packed with representatives from all 47 member species, all of them staring at the humans with a mixture of curiosity, fear, and anger. Counselor Myron spoke first. Captain Park, Admiral Choi, you requested this audience. You have the Council's attention. Admiral Choi stepped forward. He didn't bow. He didn't show deference. He spoke as an equal. Honorable counselors, we come here today not to surrender but to talk. Earth has proven it can defend itself. We've proven we can strike back. But we're not here to threaten you. We're here to show you something. He nodded to Dr. Lee, who activated a holographic display. It showed the 30 jump torpedoes in orbit around Valoris. The Council chamber erupted in alarm. Weapons orbiting their capital? How had they gotten there? These are faster-than-light weapons, Admiral Choi explained calmly. They can appear anywhere, bypassing all shields and defenses. Each one carries enough explosive power to level a city. We have 30 of them in orbit around your world right now. Counselor Thexus stood angrily. This is an act of war. You dare threaten our homeworld? We dare to show you the truth, Admiral Choi said. We could end this war in an hour. We could target your capital cities, your military bases, your civilian centers. We have the capability and the will to do terrible damage. He paused, letting that sink in. But we won't, because despite what you think of us, we're not savages. We're not conquerors. We don't want your worlds or your resources. We just want our freedom. Captain Park stepped forward. The Council sent us an ultimatum. You demanded we surrender our colonies, our research, our independence. You called us primitive. You said we needed your guidance, but we don't. We've survived for millions of years on a world that tried to kill us every day. We've built a civilization from nothing. We've reached for the stars on our own. And we're not going to give that up just because you think you know better. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of different counselors. We could have used these weapons. We could have struck first and asked questions later. But we didn't. Because we believe that strength isn't just about who has the bigger weapons. It's about having the power to destroy and choosing not to. It's about fighting when you must, but seeking peace when you can. Admiral Choi took over again. So here's Earth's offer. We'll deactivate these weapons. We'll withdraw them from your space. And in exchange, you'll recognize our right to exist as a free and independent species. No vassalage, no supervision, just mutual respect between equals. And if we refuse? Counselor Thexus asked. Then we fight, Admiral Choi said simply. And yes, you'll probably win eventually, but we'll make you pay for it. Every battle will cost you ships and lives. Every victory will be bitter. And even if you destroy Earth, other species will see what happened. They'll see that the mighty Galactic Council needed overwhelming force to crush one small world. They'll see how much it cost you, and they'll wonder if they should fear you or resist you. The chamber was silent. Counselor Mirren spoke quietly. You make a compelling argument, Admiral, but the Council cannot simply ignore the challenge you've presented. We're not asking you to, Captain Park said. We're asking you to recognize that there's another way. Humans have something valuable to offer the galaxy. Our engineering, our tactics, our resilience. We've survived things that would have destroyed most species. That knowledge, that experience, could benefit everyone. If you're willing to treat us as partners instead of subjects. The Council members looked at each other, uncertainty on their faces. The galaxy was watching. Their decision would shape the future of the Council itself. The Council chamber remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Captain Ji-Woo Park and Admiral Min-Jun Choi stood before the representatives of 47 alien species, waiting for their answer. The holographic display still showed the 30 jump torpedoes orbiting Valoris, a reminder of both Earth's capability and its restraint. Finally, Counselor Myron spoke. The Council requires time to deliberate. Admiral Choi, Captain Park, you will be escorted to guest quarters while we discuss your proposal. As the humans were led away, the Council chamber erupted in heated debate. Counselor Thexus was the first to speak, her crystalline body flashing with agitation. This is extortion. They bring weapons to our homeworld and call it diplomacy. They brought weapons but didn't use them, Counselor Myron pointed out. That shows remarkable restraint. How many of our member species would have done the same if they possessed such power? High Commander Zorvak stood, his scarred scales gleaming under the chamber lights. I fought the humans. I know what they're capable of. Counselor Thexus is right to be concerned, but Counselor Myron is also right. The humans could have attacked us at any time. Instead, they're here talking. Because they know they can't win a prolonged war, Counselor Thexus argued. Can't they? Dalnir asked. He activated his own display, showing analyses of human capabilities. Counselors, I've spent years studying Earth and its people. Yes, we would win a war of attrition eventually, but the cost would be devastating. The humans won't surrender. They'll fight to their last breath, and they'll take as many of us with them as they can. He pulled up footage from the first battle. Look at this. A human ship, crippled and dying, rams itself into one of our battleships. Both ships destroyed. The human crew sacrificed themselves to take one of our vessels with them, and they didn't hesitate. They didn't debate. They just did it. Primitive suicide tactics, Counselor Thexus said dismissively. No, Ambassador Vexatheron said quietly. Strategic sacrifice. There's a difference. The humans didn't throw their lives away meaninglessly. They calculated that trading one crippled ship for one of our functional battleships was worth it. That's cold, logical military thinking. He looked around the chamber. I delivered the original ultimatum to the humans. I called them primitive. I was wrong. They're not primitive. They're different. They think differently, they fight differently, they approach problems differently, and maybe that's what the Council needs. What do you mean? Counselor Myron asked. When was the last time anyone challenged us? Vexatheron asked. When was the last time we faced real opposition? We've grown comfortable, complacent. We assume our way is the best way because it's the only way we know. But the humans have shown us that there are other approaches, other solutions. He pulled up technical data. Look at their ship designs. By our standards, they're inefficient. Too much armor, too many redundant systems, wasteful. But in actual combat, those wasteful systems kept their ships fighting long after ours would have been destroyed. Maybe we're the ones who need to learn from them. Counselor Thexus started to object. But Counselor Myron raised a hand for silence. Let's approach this logically. We have three options. First, we can accept the human proposal, recognize their independence, and open diplomatic relations as equals. Unthinkable, Counselor Thexus said. Second, Counselor Myron continued, we can reject their proposal and continue the war. Yes, we'll probably win eventually, but High Commander Zorvak lost half his fleet in the first engagement. The humans then raided our territory and demonstrated weapons we can't defend against. How many more ships will we lose? How many lives? And what happens to Council unity if the cost becomes too high? The chamber was quiet. Everyone knew the Council was held together by mutual benefit. If the cost of enforcing their will on Earth outweighed the benefits, member species might start questioning whether the Council was worth supporting. Third option, Counselor Myron said. We can attempt to destroy Earth completely, use the Grand Armada, overwhelm their defenses and glass their planet from orbit. Several counselors shifted uncomfortably. That was genocide. The Council had never done such a thing in 10,000 years. But if we do that, Counselor Myron continued, every species in the galaxy will see what we've become. Not protectors, not peacekeepers, but conquerors willing to commit extinction rather than accept defiance. Is that the legacy we want? Dalnir spoke up again. There's another consideration. The humans united their entire species in 50 years after first contact. That's unprecedented. Most species take centuries or millennia to achieve global unity. But humans did it in a single generation. Why? Because they saw the necessity of standing together against external threats. He brought up cultural data. Before unification, Earth was divided into hundreds of nation-states, constantly competing and occasionally fighting. But when they realized they weren't alone in the universe, they put aside their differences and united. That ability to cooperate under pressure is remarkable, and it's exactly the kind of pragmatism the Council could benefit from. You're suggesting we admit them to the Council? Counselor Thexus asked in disbelief. Not immediately, Dalnir said, but I'm suggesting we recognize them as equals. Open trade, share knowledge, let them contribute to council projects on a voluntary basis. See what happens. And if they use our technology to become more dangerous, Counselor Thexus demanded. Then we'll deal with that when and if it happens, Counselor Myron said. But consider this, the humans already have faster-than-light weapons. They developed those on their own, using technology they stole or reverse-engineered from us. Imagine what they could develop if we actually cooperated with them. And would you rather have that innovation pointed at us or working with us? The debate continued for hours. Arguments and counter-arguments flew back and forth. But slowly, a consensus began to form. The council had three choices: endless war, genocide, or compromise. And when viewed in those terms, the choice became clearer. Finally, Counselor Myron called for a vote. All those in favor of accepting Earth's proposal, granting them recognition as an independent species with full diplomatic rights. The vote was close. 25 in favor, 18 against, 4 abstentions. But it was enough. The council had made its decision. Captain Park and Admiral Choi were summoned back to the chamber. As they entered, they could feel the tension in the air. They had no way of knowing which way the vote had gone. Counselor Myron stood. Captain Park, Admiral Choi, the council has considered your proposal. After lengthy debate, we have reached a decision. Park felt her heart pounding. Everything Earth had fought for came down to this moment. The Galactic Council hereby recognizes Earth and humanity as a sovereign, independent species, Counselor Myron announced. You will retain all your colonies and research. You will not be subject to council supervision or control. In exchange, Earth agrees to open diplomatic relations with the Council and to participate in mutual defense and cooperation agreements on a voluntary basis. Park felt relief wash over her, but she kept her expression neutral. The Council honors us with this decision. There are conditions, Counselor Thexus said sharply. Those weapons you demonstrated. They are too dangerous to be used without oversight. We agree, Admiral Choi said, surprising everyone. Earth will place the jump torpedo technology under Joint Human Council review. We'll work together to establish protocols for its use and safeguards against its misuse, and we'll share the underlying principles with Council scientists so you can develop defensive countermeasures. That surprised the Council members. They'd expected humans to jealously guard their new weapon. Why would you share such valuable technology? Counselor Thexus asked suspiciously. Because we're not interested in dominating the galaxy, Captain Park said. We just want to be part of it, as equals. And equals share knowledge and work together for mutual benefit. Counselor Myron smiled, or at least made the expression closest to a smile that his species was capable of. Then let us begin. Earth will send a permanent ambassador to the Council. We will open trade negotiations, and we have a proposal for humanity's first cooperative project with the Council. What kind of project? Admiral Choi asked. The Council has been monitoring an emerging threat in the Outer Rim, Counselor Myron explained. A species called the Vax. They're aggressive, expansionist, and completely hostile to diplomacy. They've been raiding Council colonies for years. Our defensive measures have been inadequate. You want human military expertise? Admiral Choi said. We want human engineering, Counselor Myron corrected. Dalnir has studied your defensive systems, your redundancy protocols, your damage control procedures. He believes that incorporating human design principles into Council vessels could save countless lives. Dalnir stepped forward. Admiral, I've reviewed the battle data. Your ships took incredible punishment and kept fighting. That's because of how they're designed. Every critical system has backups. Every section can be sealed off if compromised. Your crews are trained to keep fighting even when systems fail. We call it Death World engineering, Admiral Choi said. Nothing ever works perfectly on Earth. Our weather is violent. Our tectonic plates shift. Our diseases mutate. We learned long ago that we can't rely on things working as planned. We have to build in resilience." "Exactly," Dalnir said enthusiastically. "And that's what the Council needs. Our ships are magnificent when everything works, but when systems fail, we're vulnerable. If we could combine Council technology with human resilience, we'd have vessels that are both advanced and tough." "We'd be willing to share our engineering principles," Admiral Choi said, "in exchange for access to Council technology that we can adapt for our own needs." "A fair trade," Counselor Myron agreed. Over the next several weeks, the formal treaty was drafted and signed. Earth gained recognition as an independent species. The Council gained access to human military and engineering knowledge. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchange programs were initiated. But more importantly, a new relationship was forged, one based on mutual respect rather than domination. 6 months after the treaty was signed, Captain Park stood in the Council chamber again. But this time, she wore the formal uniform of Earth's first permanent ambassador to the Galactic Council. She was about to address the full assembly for the first time in her new role. "Honored counselors," she began. "6 months ago, Earth and the Council were on the brink of war. Today, we stand as partners. This transformation wasn't easy. It required both sides to look past their assumptions and recognize each other's value." She activated a display showing joint Human Council projects. "In these 6 months, we've accomplished remarkable things together. Council stations now use human-designed emergency protocols. Human colonies benefit from Council medical technology. Our ships carry combined Human Council crews, learning from each other." One image showed a Council ship that had been refitted with human redundancy systems. Another showed a human colony using Council power generation technology. "But perhaps most importantly," Park continued, "we've learned that different doesn't mean inferior. The Council's peaceful development produced remarkable technology. Earth's harsh environment produced remarkable resilience. Together, we're stronger than either would be alone." Ambassador Vexa Theron approached her after the address. "Captain Park, or should I say Ambassador Park, I owe you an apology." "For what?" Park asked. "For my arrogance when I delivered the original ultimatum. I looked at humanity and saw primitives who needed to be controlled. I was blind to what you really were." "And what are we?" Park asked with a slight smile. "Survivors," Vex Theron said. "Fighters, innovators. You're a species that faced extinction 100 times and refused to die. A species that turned adversity into strength. The Council needed that reminder. We'd grown soft, comfortable. You showed us what we'd forgotten." "What's that?" Park asked. "That peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the choice not to fight when you have the power to do so. You had weapons aimed at our homeworld. You could have destroyed us, but you chose to talk instead. That's true strength." Several weeks later, Admiral Choi and Commander Song stood in the command center on Luna, reviewing reports from the Joint Human Council Defense Initiative against the Vax. "The new ship designs are working," Song reported. "Council vessels with human redundancy systems are taking less damage in combat, and our ships with Council shields are more survivable overall." "Good," Admiral Choi said. "But more importantly, our crews are learning to work together. That's the real victory." "Do you think it will last?" Song asked. "The peace with the Council?" Admiral Choi considered the question. "The Council spent 10,000 years as the dominant power. Old habits die hard. There will be tensions, disagreements, maybe even conflicts. But we've proven that we can stand as equals, that we won't be pushed around. And we've shown that cooperation benefits everyone." He looked at the display showing Earth and its growing network of alliances. "Humanity survived for millions of years by adapting, by learning, by refusing to give up. We'll keep doing that. And maybe, just maybe, we'll teach the rest of the galaxy how to do it too." Back in the Council chamber, Counselor Mirren met privately with Dalnir. "Your assessment of the humans was correct," the ancient being said. "They've contributed more in 6 months than some species have in centuries." "They're remarkable," Dalnir agreed, "but also dangerous. We must never forget that." "Dangerous how?" Counselor Myron asked. "They're warriors by nature. It's bred into their bones. 10,000 years of warfare doesn't just disappear because they signed a treaty. If we ever become their enemy again, they'll fight us with everything they have." "Then we must ensure we never become their enemy again," Counselor Myron said. "We must remain partners, equals, friends." "Agreed," Dalnir said, "because the humans taught us something else, something even more important than their engineering or tactics." "What's that?" "That the most dangerous enemy is the one who refuses to quit, the one who will pay any price, endure any hardship, sacrifice anything to protect what they love." Dalnir looked out at the stars. "The Council sent Earth a threat. Earth replied with a challenge, and in the end, both sides learned that respect is earned, not demanded." Counselor Myron nodded slowly. "The galaxy is changing. The old ways of simple dominance no longer work. The humans proved that. And perhaps that's for the best. Perhaps we needed someone to remind us that strength without wisdom is tyranny, and that true peace comes from cooperation, not conquest." Far away on Earth, people celebrated the new era. The threat of war had passed. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not through conquest, not through surrender, but through the absolute refusal to give up, combined with the wisdom to choose peace when victory was possible. The Galactic Council had sent Earth a threat, expecting submission. Earth had replied with a simple message: prepare for battle. And both sides had learned that sometimes the greatest victory is finding a way to fight no more.